Hello and welcome to Acute Care's Update, The Brief, discussing healthcare topics for those multitaskers. My name is Sam Patterson, Director of Business Development here at Acute Care. Today we have Mike Winger, Director of Client Services, discussing COVID-19 vaccinations, Part 2.
Welcome back for our second installment, so to speak, just talking about COVID-19, specifically the vaccines. So today we're going to talk about the mixed messages that we're all receiving and all getting confused about what to take for fact, what to not take for fact, what's opinion. So we're just going to kind of go through some of the sources of this information, some reliable, some not so reliable. We're not going to point anybody out, but we'll talk about them. So the messages that we've been seeing are a lot of different places. We're getting information from the CDC and the WHO, and obviously that's pretty significant, pretty factual based, pretty science based, which is and should be kind of how we govern our approach to this pandemic. And the unfortunate piece of that is that because we're dealing with a virus, and we really don't know a lot about the virus, we're learning things every day. I mean, we've spent the last year coming up with some outstanding treatment ideas and some very common knowledge prevention techniques, which we talked about last time. But with something like this comes an ever-changing story, so to speak, ever-changing day-to-day change in guidance. And that has become somewhat problematic, especially for the folks that are hesitant about the vaccine, because, again, I think a big part of the vaccine hesitancy is the mixed messaging and is not knowing why something has changed from yesterday to today. But it's science. We're learning something new every day. And so as we learn and as things change, as we know viruses do now, they change, they mutate, and then it becomes a whole new ballgame and we have to reevaluate what we did previously. Politics is really the troublesome one for me. If we weren't so divided in this country, in my opinion, then we wouldn't have wouldn't have politicized this vaccinations. And then we have people struggling depending on what side you're on as far as what to believe. Is it politically motivated? Is it just someone to get a bigger handle on one side or the other? So that's become a problem. And we see this in statistics. We see that the two parties, there is a discrepancy in the number of people vaccinated in one party over the other. And again, it's very sad because this is what's really creating some problems and some hesitancy and some confusion about what to believe and what to do in these certain situations. The news is a close second. The news is a close second because, again, depending upon what channel or what programming you watch, or they have differing opinions. Some are following science, some are following not so much science. And again, this is out there. People are believing what they see on TV and the radio, and media in general. And again, this really brings in social media as well. There's been talk about if there wasn't social media, one, we probably would have not seen this difficulty in getting people vaccinated. But two, if you look back, in the days of the polio vaccine and the smallpox vaccines, and those were days where we didn't have a really good grip on science, but no one was worried about it. Very few people were even thought about not getting it but it was very apparent what it was doing in the world. So news, social media, really problematic. You get the misinformation, you get the truth, and then you get something sort of in between, and it's hard to decide what is right and wrong. The conspiracy theories, they're few, but they're out there, and they're creating a hesitancy. everything from you're being injected with something that can be trackable. We saw some of the news pieces that someone would get vaccinated and then be able to put a metal bottle cap on where they got vaccinated and it would stay. All of this is complete nonsense. This is it's just a shot. It's a fluid. It's something to hopefully protect you. It's not something so that Big Brother can find you and can tell what you're doing and what you're watching and who you're talking to. And there's other conspiracy theories, but again, unfortunately, there are a small percent of the population that believe in this, and again, that's going to create more hesitancy in getting vaccinated. Herd immunity was kind of an early discussion piece. The discussion was, man, if we get to either people get it or we get enough people vaccinated that we get this herd immunity, which is basically meaning that a large portion of a group or population are protected. And in those situations, as we know, viruses, the only way a virus will mutate if it replicates. And when it replicates very quickly in a population that's not vaccinated, then that becomes, again, a serious issue, and then we have a pandemic. So herd immunity was initially thought of as a potential wait-and-see avenue before we had the vaccines, and even after the vaccines, about maybe we don't need to be vaccinated, maybe enough if people get sick, and then we'll have our own immune system. And again, the problem with this is not a normal disease with very few fatalities or very few severe illnesses. This has killed millions and millions of people in the United States as well as across the world. And so herd immunity was an old concept, but still somewhat relevant in the discussion piece because it does come up every once in a while. All right, so let's talk about the legitimate concerns. And there are some. Long-term effects. We really don't know. We really don't assume that there'll be anything long-term after someone gets vaccinated. But I will say that we do know that long-term effects from having COVID are becoming very apparent. We're just waiting for a term, whether it's chronic COVID or we know that it's potentially creating long-term effect in the cardiovascular system, in the neurological system. So I think if you're looking at long-term effects, I think we should be a lot more scared about long-term COVID effects than long-term vaccine effects. Religious beliefs, there are some very significant religious reasons why you would not need or not want to get vaccinated. Health concerns, there are some health concerns, both certain histories, medical histories, current chronic illnesses. Right now, initially there was some hesitancy in pregnancy, but what they found out, again, changes every day. Over the last couple of weeks, we've determined that there has been several patients and babies born with COVID, and that is a result of the mom not being vaccinated. And so now they're basically looking at the possibility or the decision to say pregnant women should be getting the vaccine to prevent themselves from getting very serious, and again, be cognizant of the safety of your child. And then emergency authorization. This is an interesting piece, and you hear this probably more times than not as far as why someone's not getting vaccinated. Because it's an emergency authorization, it's not fully authorized, it might not be safe. Well, we talked about that. We talked about it's emergency authorization, but it's gone through all of the same studies and hurdles that any other vaccine has done. And if within the next 2 weeks to a month, all the vaccines will have full authorization. And so hopefully that will create some more confidence in the folks that are being hesitant about getting that vaccine and protecting themselves. Okay, so that's just some general thought processes of why maybe the public is not getting vaccinated. I think there are other things that go on. There are real reasons not to get it. There are certainly health reasons not to get it. There are certainly religious reasons not to get it. And those are all very valid reasons about maybe not getting this vaccine. Again, this should be coming from the advice of your physician as far as medical issues. Let's protect ourselves. Let's protect our family. Let's protect our world by getting vaccinated so that, again, if we decrease the replication of this virus, then we repeat the mutation abilities. And we know right now Delta is a huge issue. Right now, it's spreading like wildfire. It's completely different than the initial COVID because it's attacking young people and again making young people very sick. And unfortunately, this is a very open population since most of those have not and cannot get the vaccine currently. So the Delta is much more contagious. So we don't want to see something else come up as another mutant. Right now, our vaccines are very strong against the Delta. We are seeing that about 6 months into your vaccinations, your immune system may start getting weak and we may need a booster. We're not sure. That seems to be the current science. So next time we're going to talk about mandates. This is interesting because this is changing every day, depending upon who's mandating it, what the courts are saying, what the potential positive issues with mandates, as well as some potential negatives. So we'll talk about that next time.
Thank you, Mike, for that discussion on vaccinations. If you'd like to know more what Acute Care can do for you, please contact us at samp@acutecare.com. Remember, it's all about you.